The operation involved the CID of the Ghana Police Service, the Bureau of National Investigations, the Special Weapons and Tactics Unit of the National Security Council, and Defense Intelligence. No foreign assets were involved in the operation. I repeat, no foreign assets were involved in the operation. Satellite data from the Canadians is not correct. As I've mentioned, no foreign assets were involved in this operation. It is our understanding that this Canadian team was in town to explore ways by which they could help in rescuing these young ladies, but that was not necessary, as our security apparatus was on the ground and had clarity on what to do. So yes, it's true, there was a Canadian team in town. They were in town. We are told to explore ways by which they could find other ways of helping with this matter. But as we are informed, our people on the ground had clarity on what to do, and the result is what you see currently. I've mentioned there are ongoing operations on similar matters, and the security apparatus encourages that we should be circumspect in our reportage and our public conversation, because it has the potential of compromising some of the ongoing operations. I'll tie that to the first question about, is there more emphasis on Canadians or foreigners than on Ghanaians? No. The equal level of attention is being given to all of these crimes, regardless of which national is involved. But as has been mentioned, the security agencies require a lot of information and space so that they can do their intelligence gathering and deal with these matters. And we are hopeful that we can all support them by ensuring that they get that information and that space, and then they can get to the bottom of these matters. Just last week, some arrests were made in connection with that. That tells you that there's an active operation ongoing there. If anybody has further information, you can please do well to make it available to the security agencies. And the same level of seriousness that they attach to all of the others that have happened recently, which they have dealt with, they are applying that same level of seriousness. Ghana's security agencies continue to assure the general public, including Ghanaians and potential travelers, that Ghana is safe and they have what it takes to deal with any criminal enterprises that may spring up in the country. This is a couple of days ago, I think in a statement that we issued from this ministry on behalf of the National Security Ministry, they have just finished an appraisal, and they have come to the conclusion that there are no imminent threats, no actionable intelligence, and that the risk and crime profiles of our country have not changed, and their men and their necessary logistics and equipment are available to them and on the ground to ensure that our safety is upheld. And I think that that position between the time we put out that statement and now has not changed.
Speaker, in today's world, where sadly crime and terror have become part of everyday life, I can say that Ghana is certainly the safest country in the West African region and remains one of the few places on earth where we're not embarrassed to see ourselves as each other's keepers.
So you just had the information minister, and just at the tail end, you had the president speak on this. I want to start with Colonel on this one. And Colonel, if you listen to Kojo, even in the press conference, he had to juggle between telling us what happened with the rescue of the kidnapped girls, but also at the same time addressing the Tadi missing girls. In all those weeks when the story broke about first the kidnapping of the girls, Canadian girls, and then the subsequent rescue. That particular rescue mission has been looked within the context of what was happening with the Tadi girls. Was that a fair way to look at it?
Well, it depends on the context. Okay. As long as the two cases relate to kidnapping, we're dealing with the same subject matter. And therefore, there is some room for comparison between the Canadians on the one hand and our own nationals on the other. But since then, almost everybody has come to the conclusion that, per se, the two incidents are different.
Please explain that.
The circumstances are different. The localities are different. The elements involved, i.e. the criminals, are different. And of course, bottom line, the approaches by the national authorities are also different. the involvement of foreign nationals actually now puts the Canadian one in a completely different context. And all of these are quite material. Indeed, I would want to add, and I've said this on another station a while ago, that in conflict analysis, the parties involved is part of the context. Now, if the parties have political affiliations, substantive or perceived, it's part of the context. And therefore, it's not very easy, I mean, you cannot easily dismiss the idea that some people are trying to politicize the issue. So let me come to...
I'll refer to that point when we come to that, because the politicization. So you say that you cannot dismiss the fact that
it should be part of the context of analyzing the phenomenon of kidnapping.
Okay.
Because if I, as a freelance person, retired Colonel Abuaji, commit that crime without any political affiliation whatsoever, it's in a slightly different context from my colleague Sami Jemfi, who is known to be an NDC member, a senior official at that, committing the same crime. Indeed, my background as a military officer, retired, also, qualifies the context. So I want to say that whether the question now is not exactly whether they are MPP or NDC. The question is, do they have political affiliations?
Hold that thought, because we'll interrogate that substantively. Go to the substantive security issues that you wanted to.
Now, I noted about seven dimensions or aspects of the statement that the minister put out. One is the question of foreign element. And it was categorical that there was no foreign involvement,
no foreign
assets in the operations itself. Now that's very broad. The operations could be the tactical operation, that is the assault on the house. That is also part of the operation. But the operation didn't start and end with the assault on the house. The operation started with the collection of data intelligence, the processing, the preparations, the movements, and so on and so forth. Now we need to answer the question, was there foreign involvement at any juncture of this process?
Interesting.
And on the basis of the evidence that we all have, yes, there was. There were Canadian experts who were flown into the country. I would have expected that the minister told us the exact role that the Canadians played.
He said they played no role.
No, that is, it's a bit too much.
Okay, so here's the thing. He was asked at the press conference when he read, he said no foreign assets were involved. He repeats that, but that was in the context of the operation, being to rescue. And then when there was a question and answer session, this question was asked, the one that you just posed. And then he elaborates and says, they came here to explore, I'm trying to paraphrase, to explore ways of assisting. But in the end, it wasn't necessary. And so we did all this by ourselves.
Now what I've been trying to establish is that the term operations is not only the tactical aspect of the operation. The operation starts with the moment when the girls were kidnapped, and all the efforts that the government, with or without cooperation, collaboration with international partners put in. Now that process included intelligence gathering, intelligence processing. It included monitoring, certain activities. It might have included interrogating certain individuals remotely suspected to have been connected. When the Canadians came in, obviously they had consultations. They might have had some views, some recommendations to make. We now know, contrary to what the minister said, that there was an aspect of ransom. Not paid, but demanded.
Okay.
Now we know that in that process, the call to the family in Canada would have been made available to the Canadian authorities, who would have made that same information available to the mission here and to the experts. Now I find it a bit difficult that throughout all of this process, the Canadians didn't have any substantive contribution to make. Some have suggested, and I think to some extent they may be right, that given the assets that Canadians supposedly have, that we may not have, it is possible that in their system, the subsequent conversations with the kidnappers, because I've read somewhere that the family said they couldn't pay 850, they could only pay 47,000, whatever it is. Look, for all you know, that conversation was not by the family. It could have been by security experts within the Canadian system, either based in the embassy here or based in Ottawa, you see. So all that I'm trying to say that, yes, the minister said they were not involved in the operations. Indeed, even to leave this aside, diplomatically, it would have been better to have pronounced the country's appreciation to the concern that the Canadians showed, and in diplomatic terms, to thank them for their contribution without going into details. Now, not to have done that and to have tried to suggest that they played no role with a little diplomacy that I know, I think it's not politically correct.
That's what the Canadians did. The Canadians, the Canadian High Commission to Ghana on the Twitter account, did what you're suggesting, that they thanked us.
Yes.
They didn't even thank the government of Ghana, but thanked the Ghanaian citizens.
That's right.
For showing that empathy and care about that.
But you know how we can nuance that. We also needed to have reciprocated. Indeed, we should have said that first. Okay. And let me remind all of us that rescuing the girls or releasing them, it's not that we've done Canada a service. We have an obligation under international law to protect every human being within our boundaries. And therefore, what we did was a duty under international law or in international law. But I'm saying that, to cut it short, that it wouldn't have cost us anything if we had used that platform, that public platform, to have thanked the Canadian authorities. And indeed, I've read somewhere that even the United Kingdom also gave us some intelligence or whatever it is. You know, there's nothing wrong. It's part of the art of diplomacy. You see, even if they haven't played any role at all. I don't know whether we want to stretch this case, but the question of the ransom, again, doesn't cast us in good light. You see, if ransom was asked, we must state that ransom was asked for, although we didn't pay. In other words, the comprehensiveness of the minister's statement was it wasn't comprehensive. In fact, he should have taken all the dimensions of the process, all the operations, and pronounced himself on that. Again, I find it a bit revealing, at least for myself, that the minister chose to use the prerogative of the government to tell us about the rescue or the release mission. And nobody else on that platform had anything to say. Yes, we may choose in this country to do our things our own way. But any time similar incidents happen elsewhere, especially in the US, you will see behind the microphone, because normally they're standing in the open, you see the mayor, you see the governor, you see the sheriff, the chief, whoever, you see the police chief, you see all of them. And all of them are given the chance to explain a bit of their angle to the operation. That, I think, going forward we should do. Why we chose this time not to allow the police to speak, we can go back to the table and analyze it. But I have said just now on TV3 that, are we trying to gag the police? In other words, the police previously made a certain statement or made statements that we found not to be politically correct or palatable. So this time, let's keep the police. Now let's put out our own information. Now, whether it was national security, the minister, my good friend, Colonel Michael Opoku, whether it was the police CID chief, commissioner of police, Mami Adudankwa Tiwa, and so on and so forth, fine. But some of them should have been given the opportunity. Look, it's all part of the process of building capacity. If somebody erred, misspoke on one occasion, it doesn't mean going forward they shouldn't talk again.
I know you make point. I'll come to that because we'll take a second look at some of the other additional points. I want to quickly bring